Hello, good morning, good afternoon, EMEA, and welcome to our webinar, One Console to Rule Them All. So today we will talk about Veeam Service Provider Console version 6, and most probably will generally refer to it as the console because of the long name. Can you guys just give me a sign in chat if you hear me correctly and everything works great?
Everything seems to be good.
Okay, super. So my name is Anastasia Lazareva. I'm Inside Hosting Manager for Nordics here, and I'm joined by Ivan Kochmasov, our solution architect for VCSP and alliances for Veeam software. So I think we can start. And can you please move to the next slide? And here comes the most classic slide. I think everybody is already familiar with it. You've been automatically muted. Please leverage Q&A or chat functions in case of any questions. We will also follow up afterwards. This webinar is recorded and we will share the recording and slides following the presentation. Moreover, we will also have a quick poll in the middle of the webinar and in the end. So please stay tuned until the very end. Your opinion is important for us. So let's start with the agenda. First, a bit history of service provider innovation and solution overview. What is actually the console? Then, of course, on main topic, what is new with version 6. And after that, we will dive into demo of the product and show you all the good stuff. After that, we will timely wrap up, and if we will have time for questions, we will do an Q&A as well. So let's go ahead and jump in. First of all, I just wanted to give you a short history lesson around VCSP program. You know, when program first started 11 years ago, we did find that a lot of our service providers were leveraging our Veeam technologies to build out their service offering to the customer. But you know, it wasn't about till 2013 when we first had the integration with vCloud Director. It was purposely built for service providers in mind to provide that multi-tenancy backup solution that you needed. Then I think the most significant milestone was in 2014 when we introduced Veeam Cloud Connect Backup. As you know, this is the secure network communication technology that is central way of getting our Veeam data off customer side to VCSP Cloud without the need of building VPN connections, complex networking, and things like that. Later on, in 2016, we launched Veeam Managed Backup Portal, now called Veeam Service Provider Console, which really was our first step in introducing remote monitoring and management platform. So our service providers can effectively manage multi-tenancy workloads from central location. And then it just really took off from there with multiple enhancements from custom onboarding to invoicing, just to expanding out into, new feature sets and protecting more and more workloads, which we of course will cover later on when we talk about core capabilities a little bit later. So as you know, this quarter we just released new version 6. This product definitely makes a delivering remote Veeam BAS and Rust services even more simple than before. I think we can quickly move to it and just skipping these slides and going, I think, to one of the main things that I wanted to highlight to you guys. This product is free. To make our VCSPs as successful as possible, we do want to offer this product at no charge, and we will continue to offer it at no charge. So our service providers can scale as quickly as possible and, also be as cost effective as possible. So let's take a look really quick at this graph here. This is taken from independent research study that we did earlier this year. And as you can see, the top highlighted service offering that customers are looking for from their managed service providers is actually 24/7 remote monitoring and management. And definitely, this is a top feature that our console can solve. Of course, it has a lot of other capabilities, but that's really the number one thing. customer has an issue in the middle of the night, alarms go off, or you see alarm go off, and you can quickly investigate that and provide the services right there, right now, without need to log into 100 consoles. What about who are these customers? How many there are out there? So on the next slide, you can see that backup is shifting from on-premise to cloud-based solutions that are managed by service provider. On the following slide, you can notice that more and more customers plan to reduce self-managed backups as they move forward with cloud-based BOSS-managed backups. And Veeam Service Console gives you everything you need to do it. This is definitely the tool to go for it. Of course, the main idea, if you do managed service backup, you download console, solve all your problems, but don't forget, this can be definitely used in other scenarios as well, and we will cover it later on. So no more marketing slides. Let's go to some good stuff and talk about core capabilities. Starting on the top left, here you can see that console key feature is remote monitoring and management, as it offers powerful and user-friendly interface to manage all your BOSS and DROS workloads from central location. Moreover, you can see it has capabilities to onboard new customers, manage licenses, collect usage consumption. You can generate those licenses and assign them directly from the console. It also provides the capabilities to create invoices, so you can bill for these services that your customers are consuming. So essentially, it is just business in a box. You can pretty much manage your entire Veeam services right from the console. And it's also very automative tool and is API ready. And for those of you who are already using your own platforms and not necessarily want to use the console UI, you can port that data right from the console into the platforms you already have set it up and running on. So great tool, much more features. And what we wanted to do is have a quick poll and to understand, are you already using the console in your infrastructure? So if you can briefly just choose the answer, it will definitely help us to build this webinar better for you.
So we'll give you a bit like 30 seconds to finish up the poll. So I think the poll can be closed now. All right, so hopefully you can see the results now. Yeah, so most of you already using the console, which is great because that's actually purpose-built tool for all of you, for service providers. We also see that there is 38% of you who are still planning to use it but haven't deployed it yet. So hopefully features in the new release of version 6 will justify move those plans closer and start deploying the console, right after the session, hopefully. So if you can see the screen right now, Anastasia, can you confirm, please?
Yes, all good.
Okay, so now let's talk about what's new in console version 6. So we already released this year, in the beginning of the year, console version 5. So it was not, a huge wait time until the version 6. So what could we bring in such, short period of time? Actually, this is a really packed release, I have to say. Starting with license management. So license management, as you all know, has been a bit of a pain point for us for quite a while, because initially when managed service providers, when you started doing remote management stuff, you had to manually deploy license keys on each customer's installation and manually collect the usage from each installation. Then the console became capable of collecting the usage remotely. But still, you need to go to the VCSP Pulse portal in order to cut the license keys and download the license keys, then through the console, send them over to the customer's installation. So what's new in console 6? Now you can do it all in the service provider console. So it natively integrates with the VCSP Pulse system, which means that you no longer need to go to Pulse when you need to cut a new license key for internal use or for any of your customers. All you need, you just go to the console, open plugins, open VCSP Pulse plugin, and then you can cut your keys and assign them to the customers. It makes the onboarding process for your customers much faster. It also utilizes the APIs of the console, which means that you can do all of those tasks without actually needing to do anything manually. So if you have your own portal integration, you can do it all via API and do it all API driven way, which makes the whole process of license management much easier. It's important to point out though that in part of this release, it's still no auto reporting. So it's a feature which had been requested for a while. So to send over the usage over the month automatically to Veeam, it's still something which is in works, because we need to perform a lot of compliance and other things related checks before allowing that. So currently the process of reporting is still the same. You submit the report in the Pulse to the aggregator, then aggregator reviews it and sends it to Veeam. So the second one is support for more products. And actually, I see that in the poll, there are 1-3% of people who are missing on other products integration. So console version 6 brings the, let's say, first level integration with Microsoft Office 365, backup for Microsoft Office 365, as well as Veeam 1. What does it mean? It means that now you can manage licenses not just for agents, not just for backup servers, but also for Microsoft 365 servers in addition to that. So as a result, console becomes, as I've been saying for several years now, becomes a centerpiece for all of the Veeam powered services which you build for your customers. So as a result, again, less hassle with collecting usage reports, much easier process of doing breakdown of how many licenses were consumed by each organization of Veeam Backup Office 365 backup, etc. We will look at the demo later on and see how it works. So also single sign-on. It's been also requested for a while. We have a topic on forums, with several pages asking to bring external identity provider support. And finally, it is there. So now you can add your, let's say, ADFS identity provider or Okta identity provider and use it to log in onto the service provider console. In this case, all of your users which are already created for all other services can be utilized right in the console once you configured all of the claims and rules and enabled it. What does it mean? It means that the solution becomes much more secure. So if you have a really secure way to, to manage credentials into external identity provider, that means that console becomes automatically as secure as all of the other applications which are already using it. In addition to that, your tenants can also utilize SSO in order to log in. Moreover, resellers are also can add their own identity provider. So for example, you are using ADFS as a service provider, while your reseller can use Okta, let's say, as an identity provider and add it to the console. So it also should work fine. Next up, it's enhanced support for backup replication. For backup replication, let's say since the beginning, we did support like start, stop jobs, check the status, and also get some alarms. So also we had this remote access console functionality, which only worked when you have the same build on the service provider side as well as on the customer side, which has been a pain for some of you. So now we are bringing the functionality of remote management in a different form. What you can do now is do a remote PowerShell session. So it will open right in your browser, and you can open the connection to any of the backup servers which you're managing via service provider console. Next up, reseller support. So as I mentioned, resellers are now supporting external identity providers. They do also support VCSP Pulse capabilities. So all what we build for service providers, we automatically think of it in a way that it should also work the same way for resellers, and it should also work the same way in the API. As a result, service providers those of you who are mainly focusing on API can use all of those features. Those of you who are already utilizing channel model, not selling to the customers directly, but selling via your partners, via resellers, can be also work well for both you and the reseller as well. And last but not least, enhanced APIs. So all of the features I mentioned, including SAML, including VCSP Pulse, can be also API ready. In addition to that, as we're now able to collect the usage from the Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 as well as Veeam One installations, you can also utilize API to obtain the usage data via APIs. So which makes it a great offering, and as a result, so it saves you a lot of time. So the bottom line, if we just do a quick diagram here, previously, some of you may probably remember there was only backup servers and Veeam Agent for Windows machines. Then it was also Veeam Agent for Mac and Linux since the version 5. Now, as you can see, we have a whole heterogeneous platform, a lot of different supported platforms in there and here. So we can collect the usage and remotely license Veeam Backup Replication Server with plugin for Azure or AWS. At the same time, we can also remotely license Veeam One servers as well as Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. So as you can see, console, is coming together. Of course, it takes some time, to make sure that all pieces are integrated correctly. But you can see the results now on here that you can finally utilize it for all of the different workloads, types of workloads, and types of products in one place. So without further ado, let's jump into the demo and take a look at those features online. All right. So hopefully you can see my screen. Yeah. So as you can see, the splash screen is now different. I would say it's much more beautiful, but you may have some other opinion. You have some nice icons in there, looking like missile silos either way. And when you log in, you can log in as previously using regular credentials. Now we have a new button here. So what is it? Yeah, login with SSO. So if we click here, I already have configured the Okta as identity provider, and I was able to to log in right into the console. So how it's achieved, how it is possible? So just go to the configuration of the console version 6, then to the security tab, then single sign-on. Here, you can add a new one and select the types of identity providers which you use in your organization. So there are not all of them listed. Let's say you use Azure AD. In this case, you can utilize custom. So with custom, the only difference is that some of the things in the actual external IDP could be called differently, but it should work, So those identity providers which we listed here are those which we tested and validated against QA and so on. But for custom, it also should work. There are some topics on forums already, discussing Azure AD and other options. So make sure to check it out if you don't see your identity provider listed here. So for me, it was just Okta. I'd say, to be honest, it took for me a bit of time to integrate it to make sure it works. Though it depends on your previous experience. So for me, it was like the first time I configured such thing, so it took a bit of time. For you, it could be a different story. If you have experience, it could be done like less than an hour, to make it all work. So basically, once you provided all of the required identity provider URLs and vice versa on the Okta side, created the application, you add it here, and then you can validate that everything, the test login and make sure that everything works. So when you click test login, the test authentication is performed, and if everything works okay, you can just click complete configuration, and the Okta provider or your provider will be marked as configured. So once it is configured, what you need to do is you need to add the mapping rules. So yeah, actually you need to add mapping rules first. Yeah, so mapping rules are actually the way by which criteria we define who is the user. Yeah, so is the user a service provider or is the user a customer? So how do we define who is who? So if we go to the identity provider here, we select our provider which we just added. Then if we go to the roles, which level of the role we would like to give to them, and then conditions. That's the most important part. So in conditions, for example, we need to define the main claim, the name of the organization. In my case, my service provider is called Formula 0, whatever. And the criteria where in the external identity provider it's written, the parameter where it's written the name of the company, Formula 0, it's organization. So if we go to Okta, we'll see that the organization of my user is Formula 0. So that's the main criteria. Also, we can add some additional criteria. So for example, you can utilize the concepts of groups there. So for example, to make sure that I would like to log in as a portal administrator, I also need to be in the group with the service provider console admins value, right? So as a result, the console will be able to understand that this user, which logs in with the external credentials and claims, indeed belongs to this company, and it belongs to this group. And as a result, the authentication will be performed successfully. Right. So the same way it's performed for managed companies. As you can see here, we also have two subtabs. And you can, for example, do it for tenants too. So for tenants, we use the same, again, identity provider. We use the role of company administrator, could be company owner too. And the conditions, again, organization. Yeah, so we check that the organization is the same as one of the companies in the service provider console. So tenant one, let's say, it also says tenant one in Okta. And groups belongs to, for example, company admins, right? So as a result, we have our SSO configured, and now you can log in without using local credentials, Windows domain credentials, or whatever. So yeah, should be much more secure, much better if your customer utilizes multiple services from you, including service provider console. So they don't need to have multiple sets of credentials set up for each type of services they are consuming from you. And instead they have one set of credentials set in the identity provider, and then they use it all across the board to consume all of your services. So next up, VCSP polls. So in order to start using VCSP polls, you go to plugins menu. In plugins menu, you go to VCSP polls portal. And when you configure it for the first time, you will see the pop-up that insert the token here. So in order to collect the token, what you need to do is you need to go to ProPartner portal /Swagger. Yeah. Then log in under your own credentials. And what you will see is you will be able to generate a token. So this is the token which will confirm that you who are using the Pulse plugin here is the same person who is using the pro partner account with all of the contracts and so on here. So simply, decide for how long you do want to generate this token. Click generate, and the token will appear here. Then you just click configure and insert the token in there. So it's just a line of text. So once it's done, Pulse will understand that VCSP Pulse belongs to this pro partner account. And now you can enable all of the integration features like company management and license keys management. So let's go through all of them. So company management, how it looks like. Here you will immediately see all of the companies which you have created in Pulse. So when you, for example, generated a license key, or when you just created them manually. Also, you'll see the companies on the service provider console side. So on the service provider console side, you will see, once all of them are here, you can do an auto mapping in order to map the companies in Pulse with the companies in service provider console, or you can map the companies manually. So for example, here we do have company in the service provider console, but we don't have any assigned company in Pulse. So all we need to do is find the company in the Pulse, which represents the same exact company. As a result, we should have the same number and the same ideal names in the companies in Pulse and the companies in service provider console. Those should, there is no requirement to have real names. So for example, you can have like your internal, some kind of ciphered names. It's just fine. For us, it is important that each customer utilizes its individual license, because this way we can provide you more capabilities, like for example, setting a different expiration time for each license for each customer. And all of the other auto-reporting capabilities which will come in the future, they are also part of the, part of this requirement to have individual license for each, customer's installation. So once we mapped all of the companies in the console and Pulse, we can, and let's say don't have resellers, we can start cutting keys. So to cut the license key, all you need to do is click new license. Then you select under which contract the license is going to be cut, and then select the product. So in our case, we'll generate something for Veeam Backup for Office 365. Let's say it's long license, 1 year license, it's okay, without automatic extension. Then click next. Here we select the workloads. In our case, it's user. Let's say it's for 500 users. Now we have, the preview of that. Click finish. And here we can see that the license is not yet assigned to any company. So we have created the license, but we didn't assign it yet to any of the companies. Now we can do it. We click assign, and we can either select it for internal. So for ourselves, I remind you the formula 0 is the name of my service provider, or for the company, for the tenant. So in this case, I don't have any tenants using Office 365 yet, but I have myself using Office 365 and giving it as a service for my customers. So I select my company, service provider, and click assign. So at this point, we do generate the license key and assign it to the service provider in this case. We can also create, one more license for one of the customers. So let's say it's Enterprise Plus. Then we click next. Here we do have more workloads available. So let's say it's 10 servers. Also, it's 20 VMs. And let's say that's it. Again, OK. And now we can assign it to one of our tenants. So we select clients. OK, we don't seem, we also have to select internal, So our backup server also belongs to the service provider. So we click assign here. So now we have created a couple of license keys, one for Office 365, one for backup replication, which we can later use when we do assign them to the actual products. So on the reseller side, you can also map VCSP both companies to the service provider console resellers. And this way, actually, the reseller can also utilize all of this license cutting functionality themselves. So basically what we're doing here is allowing reseller to be fully self-sufficient, doing full self-service, running on your console, but without involving you and doing all of those actions. However, if I, as a service provider, want to limit reseller somehow in terms of license consumption, how can I do that? In this case, I go to Resellers menu, select a reseller, click Edit. Then I can select here a License Management tab. And here I can disallow just create license creation for them, or allow it but limit the points quota for each reseller. So this way you can control how many points each reseller is consuming, and just be able to restrict that if needed. But getting back to licenses, so now we have created a couple of license keys. How can we do, how we can assign them? We're going to the same configuration licensing menu. Here we can go to, for example, Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. Here we have one server, which actually belongs to me as a service provider. And what we can do is click Install from VCSP polls and select the license key and click Install. That's it. So install action is in progress. Let's wait if it works. Here we're running the beta version of Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, so we may have some issues on the way, but it's a better version after all. So we can do the same one for Veeam one, cut the license keys assigned to the installations, as well as backup replication and Cloud Connect. So again, with any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. We will discuss them later. Now let's show how the integration with Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 works in for Veeam one. So we go to the same plugin menu. Then we can select Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365. And here we have company mapping and license usage reporting. So if you enable company mapping and license usage reporting, then you add your Veeam Backup for 365 server. So how it works, how it's connected. If it's connected via internet, so it's remote servers, you can use the same management agent you are using for Veeam agent for Windows today. If it's locally located Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, then you can just add it, and it will be able to reach within the same network, reach it directly. So once it's done, you collect the data, and it will find all of the companies, all of the organizations which I currently have in my Microsoft 365. So in my case, I have one organization called Red Bull, whatever. And now I can do a mapping to the organization in the console. Why do we need it? So for example, you have Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 installation, and you have 10 organizations which you are backing up. Each organization belongs to a specific customer of yours, and you have those companies also consuming your other services via the console. So this way, this mapping actually allows you to map which organization in Office 365 belongs to which customer in the console. So we can try auto mapping. Actually, I'm curious myself if it will work because we have the same company. Yeah, it was able to determine that we have companies with the same name, organization in Office 365, as well as VSPC company. And now we can click map. So the company is now mapped. What does it mean? It means that the license usage will be reported for Office 365 under this specific company. And this way you can have a breakdown on per tenant basis rather than having all companies, all organizations in Office 365 being a single tenant, which could be a problem, of course. So that's it. I'd say it's pretty cool kind of integration. Allows you to be really gradual in how many points each company has consumed. without the need of then doing any manual calculations or anything. So on the Veeam one side, the integration is far more straightforward. We only enable license usage reporting, and then we add our servers. So all of the consumption coming from those servers will be automatically added to the usage report generated monthly, and that's pretty much it. So that's the whole integration at this point. Of course, we have plans to have a deeper integration, especially we have requests on Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, and stay tuned for the poll we will have in the end of the webinar, where you can voice your requests and what do you want to have in the future versions of the product. So next up, let's move on to the backup replication capabilities. So if we go to discovery, here we will see backup servers. Here we will see the backup server which we have and belongs to the company of our tenant. So just as before, you can do some actions like patch this backup server remotely, which should be pretty cool. That, for example, you have a hotfix provided by support and you need to upload it to all of the customers' installations. So you can do it remotely since version 5. And in addition to that, you can remotely install some patches because it's basically executing file. So now what you can also do is start a remote PowerShell session. All you do is just click PowerShell and then provide the credentials. One sec. Yeah. So now we're connected, but we're connected not just to local PowerShell, we're connected to the PowerShell of this backup server of our tenant. And as we're managing this tenant, for example, they have a backup job named backup job GFS test. Yeah, so we can run some command against it. Yeah, and we see that the last result has failed. But what we got asked by the tenant is that actually they need to clone this job. So now, instead of manually going to this backup server and cloning this job, I can just run, I don't know, a one-line commandlet and clone this job right away by using copy vbr job. So as a result, as you can see, we have created a clone one job, and the tenant will be happy. I spent much less time doing that, and everything is much better. So by having this PowerShell functionality, compared to the UI, PowerShell is really has almost on par level of feature set, which means that you can do almost all of the tasks which you need to do against tenant backup servers remotely. So you're opening this session, you can check the status, change the job settings, change anything else. You can do everything remotely via PowerShell remote access. So should be quite cool. So next up, on the backup server side, we do also now support the hosted installations. So we know that there is a significant part of our VCSP community who actually uses backup replication to protect hosting environment, infrastructure as a service, backing up, I don't know, vCloud Director, virtual machines. So for those of you, you are now able to select which servers of the backup replication servers you're managing belongs to you, to your hosting installation. So what you need to do is just when you have discovered the backup server, which you use for your hosting needs, all you need to do is just to select that it belongs to the tenant company. Yeah, so you just click set company, and then you can select your own company as a company which is using this backup server. As a result, when we will collect the usage on the monthly basis, we will show this backup server not under one of the fake tenants which you have created for yourself, but under the main usage, like it's your company who is consuming these licenses for hosting VBR server. So as a result, again, you have a better visibility. Your tenants, who of your tenants are consuming Microsoft 365, and how many users, how many do you consume for your hosting services, for your hosting backup server, as well as everything else. Everything will appear in monthly usage reports in here. So going to the agent side of things, we also do have some improvements. So if we click download agent and, for example, select Windows, here, as you can see, it's a different menu now. You can select the OS type and the token expiry period. So what does it mean? It means that actually we no longer use passwords in here. Previously, you had to type in the manually passwords of subtenants or tenants, which could be a pain. Now instead you can just utilize the company and tokens, and without any need to do password reset or whatever. So you select the company for which you want to generate management agent. Yeah, let's say McLaren, and create download link. So in addition to just not needing anymore to download it manually like that, you can also generate the link. And so if I show it again, and just utilize this download link and send it to the customer. So customer uses this link and they can download the management agent right away. Yeah. So much more convenient. On the tenant side, the interface of the management agent will look like the following. So if I open this one up, so this is the backup server of our tenant, and I double click on the management agent. Now you can see the menu is slightly different. You don't have login password in here anymore. Instead, you only have tag, which is just for your own convenience, and you have a cloud gateway port and address. And then again, security certificate is the same one, just to validate that the console, no one is interrupting the connection in the middle, hijacking or anything, and that's it. So the whole process of onboarding agents is now much more convenient compared to what it was before. So now let's get back to the console. Yeah, so, and that's it with the main capabilities. The only thing which I haven't shown is API in here, because yeah, probably showing APIs on the webinar could cause a lot of sleep. I don't know. The console version 6, as you can see, it's pretty powerful, has a lot of new nice features, just to highlight SAML integration, VCSP polls for license management, integration with Office as well as Veeam One, especially for Office, where you can do a breakdown for each organization belongs to which customer, and do the mapping. And in addition to that, some new capabilities around the hosting backup servers. So I'd say that that's a pretty packed release, and would love to hear any feedback, any thoughts which you have. You can drop them in chat, and so we can discuss them. Now let's go back to the slides and finish up with it. So the bottom line is that the console, it was right away, right from the version 1 of Managed Backup Portal, it's purpose built for service providers. It's also simplifying the license management and as well as usage reporting for you. So again, compare the journey of doing a monthly report 3 years ago or 5 years ago, compare it to what you can do now. It's just day and night, so night and day. So as a result, you can now spend much less time doing actually licensing and reporting, and focus on growing your business instead. And it's integrate and automate. So all of those plugins, you see that they barely fit the screen now. So with all of those plugins related to panels, Veeam 1 and so on, now console is truly, a centerpiece for all of the services you're giving to your customers. So upgrade. Usually I don't say that because I recommend waiting for the first patch, just what Anton Gostyev says usually. But so far the console version 6 has been pretty stable. We haven't seen a huge spike in number of cases. Same comes for Veeam Backup and Replication version 11a. So for console version 6, probably worth the wait for the first patch before installing, before upgrading. For 11a, it's pretty stable so far. So again, up to you, but there are no major issues have been found so far. So that's it for this webinar. If you got any questions, you can write them on hostingEMEA@veeam.com. You can write them here in the chat. We will try to answer some of them. And the rest of the questions will be answered after the call and sent over in the follow-up email. So thank you. Let's take a look at the questions. Yeah, Sasha or Artyom, if you have anything you want to highlight on the call, any question you would like to highlight, let us know. I'm in full silence, like I'm on my own here, and it's not like 300 plus attendees on the call. Would love to do it in person, but yeah, at the moment it's not possible.
There is a lot of excitement around VBO 365 management and questions coming in regarding jobs management, advanced procedures like restores, storage usage, etc. Can you comment on that with regards to integration with the console or standalone management?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Actually, the Veeam Backup for 365, it's been the fastest growing product for us among all segments, including VCSP. And we do see that, a lot of interest to integrating closer and closer with the console. So step one here, as you saw, license management and license breakdown. So no job management, no onboarding yet. However, there are some improvements coming from the VBO side as well. So as you have probably heard, the Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365 version 6 will have a self-service portal, right? So some of you have probably, already built your own integration, and of course it will be much more powerful because it comes in a package with all of the other features you're offering. But for those of you who have been using a community-based portals or haven't been using portal at all, that will be a nice, feature to have. So starting from the VBO version 6, you will be able to use self-service portal for restores of the data of the customer. And it could be done both in MSP way, where you have restore admins doing a restore for particular companies or for all companies. And it could also be provided as a part of self-service package, where customer logs in himself with the Microsoft credentials and does a restore. So as you can see, two pieces are coming together gradually. And on the console side, it's about license management now. On the VBO side, it's now about self-service restore portal. Anything else?
There were a few questions regarding managing hosting VBR, or how do you fully integrate hosting VBR into the service provider console?
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, yeah, as a step one of the integration, we're now getting rid of those fake companies. When you had to manually go to companies and create, I don't know, a service provider company or something, yeah. And instead, what we have now is we have this my company concept. So if you go to configuration, go to company info, here you can define your service provider name. And this is also a company, like it's company above all, let's say. So the step one here is that you can add the backup servers under your own company, which is, an important part of that. And of course, at some point, it will be also important to do a breakdown similar to what we have in Veeam Backup for Microsoft 365, Just the challenge there, you know, in Office 365, one organization means one tenant. Usually that's the case, or several organizations means one tenant. In backup replication, it's a bit different story, because you can have one job running for multiple tenants, yeah, in your hosting environment. You can have multiple jobs running for multiple tenants. They can have VCD, Hyper-V, physical, or whatever. So in order to support such huge variety of workloads, it takes, you know, some time to introduce. But yeah, that's the direction we are going into eventually. Once again, when you decide to leave the webinar and when it's going to be closed, there will be another poll asking for your feedback based on what the feature you are most looking for, which will be really interesting for our product management to check out. Okay, so anything else, or we call it a day? And thank you, Sasha, for highlighting the questions. All right, so I think, yeah, we can call it a day. In case you have any questions or just, when they popped up during the upgrade process or whatsoever, you can write hosting.emea. You can contact your local salesperson or your local pre-sales if you know them. Again, the follow-up will be sent with the recording and the slides after the session. So give us several days to just process all of the questions. Thank you very much for joining this session. I see that there is a lot of interest. A lot of people has come. Really glad to see that. Hopefully, you're happy with some of the features which were shown here. And stay tuned for the other webinars we'll have in the future. Thank you.